Hello, hello. We are live. We are going to start in just a minute. Well, we'll wait a second for people to join.
Bonjour, bonjour.
Bonjour, ça va? Hello, hello.
Hello.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. 11 o'clock.
Yep.
Here we are again.
Here we are again.
Did we say we were going to put a poll up? I like putting a poll up. Did we say we were going to put a poll up and ask people what they thought about the time? There's been some debate, ongoing debate right now in terms of debate. What do you think?
Maybe you haven't had an ongoing debate. I'm pretty happy with Mondays at 11 a.m.
Actually, you know, my schedule's pretty full, so maybe it's not such a bad time. And would it be any better? What are you doing Friday at midnight?
Well, if people do have a thought about the time, definitely drop it in the chat or let us know.
And let us know what time zone you're speaking about, right? Because if you're in London and you're saying 11 o'clock, is it the same in British Columbia or wherever?
That's true. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, we come here live every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern.
We do.
And the replays are always in the group, so people can always catch them there.
Hmm.
If you've missed any episodes, or if you're new to the group, check out the
Guides.
Yes, the guides.
Ding, 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 ding. Do I got to put? We should have like that. Remember Groucho Marx? Like too early for you, but he had a little chicken that would fall down and like. You know, I think that was
the guides are like a section in the group. If you're
right.
not familiar with it, it sort of organizes all the information. So there's lots in there, lots of resources.
So where do you find the guides? On the
If-
homepage, kind of.
Yeah, kind of. If you go to the group at the top, there's like events,
Okay.
members, etc. It probably looks different for everybody depending on how
Mhm.
they have it set up. But anyways, if you're ever looking for something on a certain topic, let us know, and we will find it for you.
Yeah, sure.
Or we'll do a new video.
We could do that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but
So today we're coming live to Let's Talk Polyamory, the group, our page, and also our YouTube.
wow,
So
everywhere.
everywhere.
Find us in the toilet.
And our
I take it into the toilet. I like to read what's going on. Too much?
And our topic today is Q is for queer.
Why is it Q for queer? Because we've been doing this alphabet series, right? So we're talking about everything from sexual expression to sexual identity to relationship identities, all of these different things. And we've been going through the alphabet, and now we've arrived at Q.
Yeah, I wonder what we're gonna do when we get to the end of the alphabet. Do we start again, or do we just make it up as we go?
We could go like instead of A, we could go AA.
Maybe.
Like art park.
So today is an interesting topic because queer is an interesting term. I think that people have different definitions of. So we're going to talk a bit about what it means to be queer,
Okay.
at least for us, how you might express this. And then, some thoughts, if we have them, on navigating as queer in a heteronormative and mononormative world as a queer identifying human.
Right.
But today we would love your thoughts as we go.
We always love their thoughts.
We do.
But especially so today.
But we are hoping people might participate in the chat and not only say hello, but also let us know what you think about the term queer. Is it something that you identify with? What does it mean to you? Why is it important for you to identify as queer? And
or
then,
not be called queer.
Or not be called queer, yes. Because some people don't like that term, actually.
Yeah.
And
we
then,
can talk about that too.
Yeah, and are you out and open about queer or another identity other than being heterosexual or monogamous, which is what most people think the majority of the world is, which is not necessarily true. So those are kind of the questions. So if you have thoughts, then drop them in the chat. We would love to hear from you.
Sure.
So hopefully we can see the chat. I'm not seeing, so I hope someone will say something soon, and then I can see if we're actually can see the chat. Otherwise, we're going to need to open up a phone because right now there's nothing. Oh, private chat. Oh, there we go. Okay, there we go.
And there's that StreamYard thing. So if you want to come up with your name, you'll have to give them permission because otherwise it'll just come up as user. Right?
Okay.
You got that.
So we're also going to share.
Hang on. You're scrolling up too fast. There's one part that we said that was very important here, and that we're going to start off by saying that we're not sexperts or experts, right? So in the definition of queer, we found that there are many definitions, right? There's not just one size fits all. There's not just one absolute definition. And what we might say may fit well for you and may not. So you're entitled to your own opinion, as we are with ours. But
Yeah.
we'll do our best to try and convey what we understand it to be and what we've experienced it to be. But again, we'd love to hear from you in what your experience or understanding of it is.
Yeah. Exactly. Awesome.
Okay. That's our disclaimer. Illegal.
Yeah. All right. So let's
go.
Good. Let's go. Let's start by sharing how we personally identify.
Oh, yeah, okay,
I thought
sure.
that would be a good way to start.
All right. So why don't you give us a little bit about your queerness, who you are, and what you understand of it, and what everything else you want to say.
Okay. Well, I'm Tara.
Tara.
I identify as a cisgender, queer monogamous woman, queer polyamorous.
Wow,
oh my God, I just said
that's
monogamous.
Whoa. Time out right here. That is an interesting paraplexis, right? Very Freudian slip here. I wonder what you mean by that, because in a way, I've been feeling very monogamous lately. We are kind of living as though we are. I mean, our beautiful friend Arzu is living with us in those last week or 2 or 3 or whatever it's been, but it does for many ways seem like it. And I guess if it is in part due to COVID, the idea that we are kind of locked in, I don't know if COVID ever opened up or if we're returning back to that original state, but there is these presentation of being monogamish in our demonstration.
Yeah, probably. Also, I think because we've been moving and that sort of thing, like we've just come here to Montreal, and we don't know a lot of people here. I think I actually have my first date in Montreal outside of you, my love, this week.
So that might bring back a little bit of that poly feel to it, right? Of being more ethically open than just seeing me all the time.
Yeah, but I think that you can still be polyamorous or open, even if you don't happen to be seeing people at, at a certain particular time. It's how you identify, how I identify. So I may or may not be with people at any given time for any given reason.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's it.
Okay. So you want to go back
so let me start again.
You want to go back to your descriptor and see if you can make an accurate statement, although that might have been the most accurate of all. Go ahead.
Cisgender, queer, polyamorous woman. So cisgender meaning that the gender I was assigned at birth, female, is and always been how I identify. So, and queer in that I'm not restricted by gender in the way I choose my partners or lovers or friends. I also refer to myself as bisexual, and I'm still queer and bisexual, even though I'd say that I'd probably have more of a preference for having lovers and partners who are penis owners or identify primarily as male or men.
It's so interesting.
I have a hard time with the terms sometimes.
Yeah, so do I. In fact, I am a penis owner, I guess. Yep. And there's something about the terminology, something about the way it's announced as penis owner. It sounds
it's like vulva owner. I don't know. It's like I
it's
feel
the
like
ownership that sounds
more
like
inclusive, maybe.
Like kind of settler kind of expression.
Yeah, I don't know.
Too capitalistic.
I think queerness sometimes also has like a social political belief too, and how you view the world as not, we're not strictly heteronormative or mononormative. So, but we'll get into those terms in a second.
Right, sure.
And how about you, Andre? How do you identify?
I actually wrote a little something. I want to read it just in case, because it's probably messed up, but I might mess it up even more if I just ad-lib it. But I'll say, for me, I think it has, being queer, for me, I think it has a lot to do with the time of day. Seriously, it fluctuates and is as fluid as I am. Maybe not articulate, oral fluid, but yes, so it kind of goes. My queer sexual expression may change depending on who I'm with and where I'm at in my life, but my political, social convictions are more consistent in not wanting to simply be or identify as white, hetero, monogamous male. So stating that I'm queer outside of my sexual expression or my sexual identity may often be used as a rejection of the status quo, right? So I'm maybe not wanting to be considering myself as heteronormative. I also, or participating in that. I'm also fully aware, however, that sometimes some people may take exception to the word as it may carry a pejorative or deprecating meaning, implying the negative connotations that it once held or may still hold, right? So we'll take a look back at the history of it as well, hopefully. So being able to appropriate that may be a way of taking back some of the vengeance or the nastiness, the hate that was associated with that, and that we might own it in being proud of who we are and where we're at with it.
Yeah. I wanted to go back to the picture that we used for the promo today, for today's show. And, we've got two pictures of us here. On the left, this is me dressed up for a party with some friends. And, while I'm dressed up and maybe it's a bit over the top, and not something I would normally wear. I wore this to a party with other people that I have a relationship with, like a friendship and lovers that are both identify as both like male and female.
And questionable. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I got to interact with multiple people at this party and, as this person, I don't know. And then this is you.
Well, going back to you for a second, I like your purple theme because, I guess it's rather informal, but purple often is associated with queer, right? It's like questioning color. What is purple? Is it like red or blue or together? Anyway. And yeah, there's a picture of me with my alter ego as
Sparkle Kitten.
Sparkle Kitten. That's me. It's true.
Yeah. Yeah, you just felt like it one day, and that's what I like when you said about it being like any time of the day. It could be at any point in the day.
Right. You know what? Also, I find interesting about the announcement of being queer. It's often thought, well, are you straight or are you gay? Right? Are you this way or that way? And I think for me, it kind of fluctuates. It depends. But it's not just my sexual expression, whether or not I might be heterosexual or bisexual or gay or whatever it is, but that it is my own self-identity with being very much in touch with my feminine side, and that it is anything other than being just simply straight and vanilla. I can have some weirdness to me, some part that I really appreciate as being, there's something odd about that fellow. They're rather queer. And it's like, yes, I am very queer and loving it. I am very strange and appreciative of it.
So you embrace the term.
Very much so.
Just to go back to some definitions in case they're new to some people, heteronormativity is the concept where heterosexuality is the preferred or normal mode of sexual orientation. It assumes the gender binary, i.e. that there are only two distinct opposite genders, and that sexual and marital relations are most fitting between people of the opposite sex.
Kind of like the Noah's Ark way of looking at the world, right?
Yeah, two by two.
Male, female.
Yes. And then mononormativity was a term coined by Piper and Bauer in 2005 and refers to society's standard of monogamy, the practice of emotional and sexual commitment to one individual as the norm for engaging in romantic relationships.
Yeah, and it's interesting, right? Because when we step outside of that, sometimes people can feel very threatened by that. It's not quite as well defined. It's unclear, and it's like, well, what do you mean by that, and where does it leave us? And I think that the best part about all of this really is that while you may not subscribe to a certain position, we become understanding and tolerant of other people's life, or we become inclusive of it, rather than having to, put it underground or having embarrassment or shame about it, that we can normalize it and make it just as viable. So whether you are straight or otherwise, queer or otherwise, you are somewhere on that spectrum, and we all have a valid place in this world.
Exactly. So we're going to go into some definitions, but just as a reminder, a couple of discussion questions if you're joining us live or even in the replay. We're also going to post these in the group so we can have a continued discussion throughout the week, because I would love to hear what people think about this term, whether you like it, if it's something you identify with, are you out, all those things. So let's jump into some of the definitions that we found.
Are you out? I want to hear, if we have time, about your experience in coming out, and who knows, who doesn't know, things like that. But let's go
for
on.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so some definitions. So I'm reading a book called Bi Notes for a Bisexual Revolution, which was shared with me by a good friend. Shiri Eisner is the author. And the queer definition of queer is a non-specific identity that describes anyone diverging from heterosexuality, monogamy, and vanilla, and put in brackets, non-kink sexuality. And then because it's a book on bisexuality, they said in the bispectrum context, it's used to denote attraction to people of more than one or of many genders.
Mm-hmm. But that's not to say that you need to be bisexual to be queer, right?
Nope.
You could be whatever sexual you want, asexual, however, but it's your own self-identification with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anything that you feel to be not the norm, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Not the status quo.
Yeah, but it depends also who you talk to, because like a lot of the definitions that we saw had different. Oh, people are jumping in.
Sure.
Oh, this is the this is the YouTube.
So another definition, if I may, is queer is an identity and often considered a movement for individuals for sexual and gender minorities and individuals who fall outside and or reject cultural norms around sexuality, gender identity, and or gender expression. So I think I fall in that.
Mm-hmm.
The word queer can mean different things to different individuals, but the most common definition is, here it is someone who is not cis, someone who is variant experiences with orientation, gender, and or sex. The queer movement has largely been an anti-conformity, thank you, Monday mornings, and the rejection of binaries and being pushed into boxes. Similarly, the term queer is the term variant. So you are a variant.
A variant. I like being a variant.
Yeah, it's a variation from the norm, from what we call the norm. And it's only statistically the norm because statistically most people identify as monogamous or as hetero, but it is by no means normal as in being the only accepted form of mental health capacity, right? So it might be normal in its more like, I guess, average would be a better expression for it, right? It's not as normal, meaning that it is abnormal to not be this way. It is just the norm because of the statistics involved that most people fall into that. But being outside of that in no way should imply that you are abnormal.
Mm-hmm. So they say queer is often an umbrella term. So it might encompass a number of different things related to one may identify as queer, but also something else like queer and gay, or queer and lesbian, or queer and bisexual. But not all individuals in the LGBTQ, IA plus, and all the other things might identify as queer. So it can be used as a term. So there's a couple things. Individuals who have a multifaceted identity that's difficult to explain with a single term. So you may just say, oh, I'm queer, and that might be all encompassing for you. That would probably be a good one for me. Individuals whose relationships or orientation cannot be classified using gay, heterosexual, bisexual, lesbian, or other common terms due to being non-binary. So someone's non-binary. Individuals who are unsure of their identity but don't want to be considered as heterosexual.
Questioning, which is right. The Q from queer is often used in the Q for questioning.
And then sometimes people who are heterosexual may use the term because they don't want to label themselves by a specific term. Maybe, I don't know. That was an interesting one for me.
Individuals who are not heterosexual.
Okay. Oh, so we're not heterosexual.
Who do not want to label themselves with more specific terms, right?
Right, not heterosexual. Okay. Yeah.
It's interesting though, right? I might want to identify as queer, but at the same time, there's part of me that wants to resist putting a label on myself, because what is my understanding of it? What is your understanding of it? And also, like I said at the beginning, there's times when I am very much one way and less so the other way, but then I might be more that way and less the other way. So it fluctuates over time. There's an oscillation.
Can I ask you a question?
Please.
I'm thinking about like dating profiles and stuff, and at what point you changed your thing, on your dating profile. Like I know I used to put single, or I used to put I guess heterosexual, is that an option, or was there not even an option for that?
No, I think, well, it depends on which website, but yeah,
Mhm.
you can do heterosexual, homosexual, bisexual, asexual. There's,
Mhm.
the whole.
And then I remember at one point I decided to change it to bisexual, and I thought, I was like, wow, okay. And then I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't put that because, like, I don't know, I felt like I was like cool enough to be bisexual, or
Oh,
even
interesting.
queer. Like even the term queer, it's like, oh, maybe I'm not queer enough. Like maybe I come off more as, I don't know, not queer. And so then I was like, can I even use that term? Am I allowed to use that term?
Well, that's interesting, right? That we might want to judge ourselves by other people's standards. Am I going to be queer enough for them? Because
I know people really well that really identify with that term. And to me, I guess I think that they have more activities that might put them into the queer category. I don't know. It's kind of silly, maybe. And then I just decided one day, well, as we were preparing for this, and I was thinking about it, it's like, yeah, why can't I be queer? Like I don't really see myself as heterosexual. And even if, like I said, I may have a preference, that doesn't mean I'm not bisexual or queer.
I'm curious though. So it's changed over time? Like, where do you think you were, say, like in high school? Do you think you had an awareness of being queer or being weird or outside or on the fringe?
No, I don't know. Like I think I was always a little bit attracted to women, for example. People identified as women, and fantasized about that for sure. Like for my entire, sexual. Once I became aware of myself as a sexual being, I think it was a fantasy of mine, but never went into it. I never actually thought about myself being something other than heterosexual, I guess. Until like probably in my 40s when I actually had an opportunity, and then opportunity presented itself, and then I was like, oh wow, oh this is cool, and there was a couple people along the way that I was like really attracted to, and then I was like, okay, yeah, I get this now. I can do this.
Cool.
Anyway.
So you found people who were accepting of it, and they allowed for the demonstration. You felt comfortable with that. Yeah, unfortunately, there's still a lot of places in the world where you cannot come out as anything other than hetero or monogamous, right? That you have to conform because the social pressures are such, they would not accept it. I think for myself in high school, I was open to different ideas of sexuality, but I think a big part of me also was not quite so aware of it and so self-assured. And I think looking back, I probably wanted to be accepted by those people. So I might have not been as curious about those things. Whereas if I would have fallen in with a group of people that were more open, more expressive that way, I probably would have been open to that influence more. I'm very much chameleon like that.
Yeah. Awesome.
Cool.
It took us a while then to get here.
Yeah.
But it's great.
Does it feel right?
It does feel right. It does feel right.
Yeah, it makes me think back to the political statement, the social expression of it, that it is in some ways the rejection of that status quo, of the capitalist, the norm in there, not wanting to be participating in that, right? The rejection of so much of that kind of like that settler mentality, right? I don't want to be that white male, cis male kind of dude who is only one way, but I want to be more loving and incorporating and have a rich, full experience of the universe.
I think we do have that. We're very fortunate in that way.
Extremely so, yeah.
And this relationship, I think, has opened that up for me personally, which has been amazing. I feel limitless.
Excellent. Beautiful. Yeah, we should have no limits.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Awesome. Okay. I think I said earlier, there are some definitions out there that say that you cannot be heterosexual or cisgender and be queer, but I think that's a bit limiting.
I think that's their limitations, not ours. I don't subscribe to that. Why should I?
Yeah, I think someone could be cisgender and be queer.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, why not?
Sure.
Okay. So let's move along.
Okay.
We found this quote from a poet.
Canadian poet.
A Canadian poet. Brandon Wint. I know if you've seen any articles and things, it's often quoted. It was so interesting, though. I couldn't find the full poem, even on his own Facebook, but I like this definition.
So do I. The part where he says, not queer like gay, queer like escaping definition, queer like some sort of fluidity and limitlessness at once, queer like freedom too strange to be conquered, queer like the fearlessness to imagine what love can look like and pursue it.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
I love that. Fearlessness and limitlessness. Pretty awesome. Yeah.
So that goes right to what we were saying about those limits that other people might say, well, it has to be this or it can't be that. And why do we subscribe to other people's limitations, right? If it works for you or it doesn't, then you're the master that you get to decide.
Awesome. We wanted to share some statistics, because we like to do that.
Sure.
But it was interesting. It was really hard to find statistics on just being queer. So if anybody has any resources that they're aware of, I would love to see it. There's a lot on other ways of identifying either relational identity, sexual orientation, gender identity, but not really any specific to being queer. And it was often lumped in, even in one I saw that said it was LGBTQ plus stats, didn't have any stats that were specific to queer. So I was like, that's interesting.
Yeah, I wonder why that is. And I wonder if it's because there is no real set understanding or agreed definition on what it means to be queer. So is it harder to form the question that way? Or do we just assume, well, if you're not presenting as, het or mono, then you're automatically in those other groups as queer?
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I'm interested to find out.
Here at home in Canada, Statistics Canada, they do various surveys. They do the regular statistics one, but also special surveys. And there was one done in 2014,
2014, right?
Canadian Community Health Survey. And it was apparently the first Statistics Canada survey to include sexual orientation related questions. And so I'm going to apologize for some non-inclusive terms. I'm just going to read it straight out because I don't want to change what they concluded. But they had 1.7% is the percentage of Canadians aged 18 to 59 who reported in 2014 that they consider themselves to be homosexual, gay, or lesbian. Just those categories is the ones that that was in brackets, so I assume that's what they asked. And then the other one was 1.3% was the percentage of Canadians same age, 18 to 59, who reported that they considered themselves to be bisexual.
Yeah. I find those numbers to be incredibly low. It doesn't seem to me that it would only be 1.7% of the population. But what I do find quite interesting, and I'm glad to hear about it, is that they started to speak of sexual orientation and identification in 2014. It's slow in coming, but at least we're getting there, right? So it is on our radar. We are having a dialogue about it. We are able to talk about these things in a very matter-of-fact, normalized way, as opposed to you can only be this way or that way. And it's interesting because very often still when you come to a forum or you see it demonstrated outside in bathrooms, it is still binary, right? It is male or female, Mr. or Mrs., and all of that stuff. And, the bathrooms, and we are subscribing to those limitations in many ways, right? Or are we starting to get a better understanding that there may be something beyond that? And find that out through dialogue and exploration.
I like that now some bathrooms have they have no symbols or they say all genders, or I saw a really good one somewhere. I wish I took a picture of it. I can't remember what it said, but I thought it was really good.
The symbol for non-binary?
No, it wasn't a symbol. They said there was a saying on it. I can't remember what it was, but I liked it. I don't know why we're blurry.
But there's also, I think you see it a lot in clubs where there are bathrooms that are unisex, right? So you go and you do your business, then you wash your hands, you get out, and that's it. And it's no big deal, as opposed to being you have to go there and you go over there, and it's
yeah.
But I wonder if in those clubs, if it is geared more towards people who are more fluid, who are more expressive, that way, more open to the possibility of being something other than. So if you were to then take people who are not so keen to that, not so open to that idea and you put them there, would they feel in any ways uncomfortable?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Like my most recent experience of that is the club here in Montreal, Club L.
Mhm.
They have a single washroom, and they have stalls, they have curtains, and then they have further along you can use the urinal if you so desire. And I was actually in one once, and somebody opened the curtain, and it happened to be someone identifying as male, and I was like, hi, like curtain closed means it's taken.
Yeah, that's like a no-brainer. But I thought you were going to say you were wanting to try the urinal.
Well, that would be interesting.
Well, there are anatomically designed female urinals, but I've seen vulva-owning people use male urinals as well.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's good for the goose is good for the gander.
I don't know why. There's something wrong with the camera. It's like super blurry.
But that's good. It softens.
It's softened.
Yeah,
yes,
softens,
you can't tell here, but
viewers,
I have a terrible eye. That's why I'm not wearing a lot of makeup today.
Your evil eye?
I think something's trying to get out of my system.
Interesting. So Louise Hay was a psychotherapist who recently passed away at, I think, 90 years old. She was wonderful. She would always ask, what is the body trying to say? So I wonder what you're not wanting to see.
Well, I had a really bad headache too on Saturday night. And then this whole eye thing that's gotten worse and worse over the couple of days. So I just think, maybe my body's trying to get something out.
Yeah.
Is it something I don't want to see? Is that what you're saying?
As I said that, I became very much aware that I was making that interpretation, and I suggested for you a better thing might have been, what do you think it means? What is your body trying to say?
Oh, I don't know, but I was thinking about that when I was in the bath today. I was thinking about like, what is my body trying to release? But it's interesting that it's my eye.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, that's what Louise Hay would say, right? That we are somatizing, we are expressing it in different parts of our body, and it would say different things. So, for example, some people might have an upset stomach. They can't stomach the idea of something happening. And so we've integrated into our verbiage, into our language, right? So I don't see.
Maybe something I don't want to see.
It makes me think of my deer jokes. What do you call a deer with no eyes?
No idea.
You finally remember.
There's more.
Yeah, but anyway.
Okay.
Queerness and mental health.
Yeah, should we talk about that?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
What about it?
So first, a definition of intersectionality, because we're talking about intersectionality between identity and mental health. Intersecting experiences of marginalization and the needs of the whole person are considered. So, so there's various ways in which intersectionality impacts the mental health of LGBTQ plus people. And I think that there's various forms of marginalization that can happen: racism, sexism,
poverty, other factors,
homophobia, transphobia, that can negatively impact someone's mental health.
Right. It's not always easy being purple.
It's true. And then the other part is that people who do identify as LGBTQ or another identity often face additional challenges. So accessing mental health services. So they may be prevented from it. They may not be able to find ones that are appropriate and inclusive, may face discrimination on the basis of both disability and sexual orientation. And that would probably vary too, depending on where in the world you are too, I would suspect, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, just as a quick side note, and unfortunately I did not get a chance to read the article, but I saw the headline that there was a landmark case that is trying to put an end towards conversion therapy.
Oh yeah, we saw something. Oh man,
so
conversion therapy.
Good for that. Well, trying to make somebody conform to not the way that they are or they might conceive of themselves, but trying to make them fit into our little box that we want them to be in. It's horrific.
And that's not just done by specific groups either. Like I don't know if you've had people you've talked to, but I've certainly talked to individuals and couples that have had that experience, depending on the counselor that they would go to a counselor to deal with some issues around being polyamorous or queer.
Sure. Yeah.
And and faced a lot of difficulty in that,
yeah.
a lot of judgment.
Yeah, a lot of moral judgment for sure.
You know, the one couple I'm working with now, they even said that they were hesitant to go for someone else because they just felt like someone wouldn't understand them.
Mhm.
And I was just like, that's such a terrible thing. And I can't, and that's, you know, it just I'm saying they're a polyamorous couple, but imagine if there was other layers of identity and how that could proportionally get more difficult for people to access that kind of service. So that's why I think, while these aren't specific to people being queer, that there's higher rates of depression or anxiety.
Yeah, and if you're trying to, you know, get some type of therapeutic response from a counselor or a coach or a therapist, and you feel that it's not accessible because they are in any way judgmental, then it's going to feel unsafe, and you're not going to want to participate in that, right? So it's really critical that we know, and they do exist, there are sex positive therapists and coaches and counselors who are able to afford you a safe, non-gentle space.
Yeah, and keep looking for the right person for you, right? Like, and even if they aren't judgmental, sometimes there's just not a fit, right?
True that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we were just talking about more higher rates. Also some PTSD, and then that's the stats, those kinds of things. We don't have specific stats, but just a note. So then, do we want to talk about being queer and being consensually non-monogamous?
Yeah, what about it?
I don't know. I don't know.
Do you think there's a place there? There's a connection? There's something you want to say about that?
I think you can be consensually non-monogamous and not be queer, and you can be queer without being consensually non-monogamous. I guess really that's all I wanted to say about that. Yeah, that's really all I wanted to say about that, is like, just because you're queer doesn't mean you're consensually non-monogamous. Some people would identify as monogamous and queer. They just may be choosing a particular partner or lover at one particular time.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have a little bit of time. I wanted to, if you'd be so kind, can you tell us a little bit about your expression of coming out and announcing to the world or to your family or friends, whoever, about your queerness, about your being in any way weird or different?
You mean awesome?
Awesome.
Weird or different equals awesome.
But we think it's awesome because we embrace it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I think my first experience was the first time I actually dated a woman. And I happened to be living at my parents' place at the time. And I told my mother, because I thought, well, she's going to find out. I don't know what I thought or maybe I just wanted to make a statement. I'm not sure what. And she's like, oh, this is new. Is this new? And I said, well, it's not really new. I said, I had been interested in women for a while, just hadn't had an opportunity to date them before. And then, so that was that relationship didn't work out. I think that was partly because, I wasn't attracted necessarily to that person. For that person, I was also too straight because they identified as lesbian, that first experience. And so that didn't work out. They didn't like that I was bisexual, that I liked men, which is an interesting thing, right? That happens as well.
It does, yeah. It's kind of, I think the term is being a tourist.
A tourist, right? Yes.
Yeah, so either you're with us or you're not, kind of deal. But
well,
that's not for everybody. But, sometimes they want to, I think some people want to feel like you're not just window shopping, you're not just there seeing them as a fetish, right? It's like, oh yeah, I want to check this off my box, and so they were, I guess, wanting to be self-protecting in that sense, perhaps.
Sure, for sure. But for people who identify as bisexual, it can be a bit marginalizing, but also promote this idea invisibility. It's like that you don't actually exist. So that's that. But then my second experience was I had a good friend that I had a friends with benefits relationship with, and my parents really didn't understand that. I think I started hanging out with them as well while I happened to be living with them for particular circumstances, because I'd split up with my long-term partner. And they didn't understand that and thought it was strange. And so I would have to tell them about I'm staying over at their place. And they just didn't understand that we could be friends, like really close friends, and have a close relationship without being like in a committed relationship. So that was kind of my first thing. And then, of course, coming out to my parents this past March about being polyamorous. And that was a bit more, it was a bigger deal for some reason. Than that other relationship, maybe because I was dating other people and they didn't, I don't know, or they knew that person. I don't know what the difference was for them.
It's an interesting question. I don't know. I guess like I'll call it the whole gay movement, going back to like Stonewall and that, did gay people make it more mainstream, more accessible, that now even, straight people, normal people would be accepting of it, but yet bisexuality and polyamory are like the two last frontiers, and of like, well, maybe it's not quite as well defined, and like, where do we put you? So maybe it's not, maybe it's still rather new on their horizon.
Yeah, I think the people who know it, but people who don't have the assumptions about it. And we talked a bit about it last week, around it being just about sex or that sort of thing. Like, how can you be in a committed relationship with anybody, or how can you be in a committed relationship with multiple people at the same time? Like, it just doesn't make sense. So then they just put it down to, oh, you must just want to have sex with multiple people, and that's disgusting or immoral.
Well, that's it, right? So they think that because you're polyamorous, you're going to be promiscuous, right?
Right.
And we might well be, but it's not a given that you're going to be, right? It's not an automatic. They don't come one with the other.
Yeah, it's that you want different, the way I tried to explain it was that I was interested in different types of relationships with different type of people, because in my view, putting everything on one person is a lot. And while we have an amazing relationship, it doesn't mean we can't have relationships that are rewarding, fulfilling, with others that are different for whatever reason, whether it be like around sexuality or whether it be interests, like
intellectual stimulation stuff.
Yeah, like my one partner, like we like to talk about business stuff, like we geek out about that stuff. And we talk about that a lot. We probably talk about that more than we talk about anything else, like sex or anything. You know what I mean? So it's like, and my friends with benefits friend is still my friend, and they called me the other day and we talked about their relationship with somebody else. So I don't know. I just feel like it's all the love, man. Give me all the love. But it was hard for my parents to understand. And if you've been in the group for a while, then you may know that there's some videos in the group. One where we had our initial conversation, where we talked about what I might say, and then some like subsequent ones.
And how it was received.
Yeah. It's been hard. My parents haven't been the most supportive, and particularly of you, and that makes me very sad.
It might be safer for them to be less accepting of me because I am once removed, right? But for them to have to look at the way that their daughter might be a little bit too close to home. So it's easier. Oh yeah, that guy, he's the bad influence, even though you may have had this expression well before you ever even knew me.
Oh, exactly. I haven't really gone into the whole details of being queer. I think as a concept that would probably be a bit beyond their comprehensive, and I'm not sure it's necessary. No. The reason I wanted to come out as polyamorous is because of the work we do, supporting people in their relationships and all that. So we are public, online and YouTube and all this, and so if anyone was going to share the story, I wanted to be that person. So it's not everybody's choice.
Right. But also, the part of that I hear is like the idea that if I am a certain way, might I announce it in a way that kind of helps to demystify it or normalize it, that it is perfectly acceptable to be as I am, just as it is perfectly acceptable for you to be as you are, that we are self-accepting.
And what about you and your family, being queer and polyamorous?
Well, I think I come from an interesting family. So my I hope this doesn't sound judgmental, but it will. I'll say it. So my brother and my father, I think, are pretty macho kind of guys, and they're loving, but they have their ways. And my mother, I think, is much more fluid in that way. So with my mother, I felt that I was quite able to be curious and expressive, and I felt less comfortable being that way with the men in my family. So because my mother was living her life as a feminist and being in touch with the way she was, it helped me to be in touch with my feminine side and be more expressive that way. And I felt less secure in doing that with my brother and my father. But that was my own limitation. And then as I became more acquainted, I was wanting to be expressive that way, but I don't know that it was as well received. So kind of.
Did you actually come out and tell your dad that you were queer, or?
I did, but not to say that I don't identify as homosexual, so I didn't say that I was homosexual, but I did allude to the idea. I tried to speak in a way that he would remain open, because I have the idea and the impression that he is rather homophobic. So I think if I were to come to him and say that I was in any way bisexual, whether in my sexual expression or my sexual identity as being two-spirited, that he would have been sort of rejecting. He would have rallied against it. So I kind of watered it down a bit for him, I must say. Yeah, but there's also part of me that questions, how could he not know? If he's spoken to me for more than 5 minutes, if he's heard me at all, then I think he kind of would know there's something queer about me. There's something rather off about me.
Off? You mean on? Totally on.
Yeah,
I love
sure,
your queerness. I think
so
that's what makes you interesting and unique and exciting, and I just think that's awesome about you. I love Sparkle Kitten, and I love you like this.
Yeah, it adds a dimension to us. It adds facets to us that we don't feel as though we have to be restricted by. And it's okay to have, a determination in one way or the other. We're not saying that one is better than the other, but for me, I like to be able to be rather fluid like that. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that was a pretty good goose set. Was there anything else you wanted to chat about today?
Not at this very moment.
Okay,
but
cool.
We're open to comments, and if that's it, then I'm glad we had this time together.
Here's the questions again. We'll put them up in the group.
Sure.
We'll either maybe do one, let's put them all up
as
one, and then people, if you're watching in the replay, you can post comments here in the chat, or I'll do a new post with these questions, and you can share your thoughts. And we just ask that you be respectful, obviously, to each other, as we know you will be, and share the love. So that's it for Mondays with Tara and Andre today.
Yay.
Yay. Q is for queer. What will QR? What will R be? RAR. No, I don't know.
We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah. All right. Thanks, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.